Members should declare non-financial interest to happen any item of business at the meeting, identifying the relevant agenda item and the nature of the interest. Any declarations of interest at this time? None? Fine, thank you. That takes us to the minute, item 3, minute of meeting of the Falkirk Common Good Fund held on the 25th of August 2020. Any questions arising for that minute, or can we agree? Agree the minute? Thank you. That takes us to item 4. It's the application for financial assistance for Falkirk Friends. Brian, if you want to maybe just say a few words in relation to this before we open it up for members. Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. Yes, you'll recall, just as you said earlier on, that when we were considering this item at the last meeting, there was technical difficulties with Dr. Comrie, who was there from the Falkirk Made Friends to answer any questions on the organisation or the application. We've managed to get him back, albeit on telephone today. Really, the business before the committee is just to consider the application. You'll have seen from an email I sent that they've actually asked less money than they were at the time of the first meeting. It's gone from 5,800 or so down to asking for 4,250. And as I said, Dr. Comrie's here. He can answer any questions on that you may have. If you're happy with that, Convener, I'll just bring Dr. Comrie back. He's currently in the lobby just now. And if we check, if we check he can hear us, then you're good to go with questions. Just to say, there's nobody from finance here just now. The committee did ask questions about the Common Good Fund at the last meeting. So rather than waiting for finance to be available, we just took the decision to have the meeting and go without the financial expert. So hopefully that's going to be okay.
Thank you.
That's Dr. Comrie back now.
Is that Dr. Comrie in? Dr. Comrie?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Welcome to the meeting. I'm going to open up for members because there are quite a number of questions that were coming forward at the last meeting. Unfortunately, because of technical difficulties, we couldn't go ahead with it. But the first question I would like to ask you is that you made an application for 5,800. You've now reduced that to 4,250. Could you tell me the reasoning behind that? Thank you.
Yes, Councillor. What has happened since I've put in that application on behalf of Falkirk Made Friends was that a number of things, but the pivotal change was about 3 weeks ago. I got contacted by Great Place, the project currently ongoing to promote Falkirk as a great place to be and live in. Offered to match fund any applications we were making for funding, for grants. And that was the very day of the meeting of Falkirk Made Friends, and we discussed it. And it was agreed that we should advise Common Good Fund that this had happened. Since then, I have contacted Great Place, Miss Helen Rashad, and she's qualified that when she heard it was such an amount to saying that she would support and advise us in getting match funding, which I believe she will do. But it leaves us in a situation where it was only right that we should advise the Common Good Fund that there was a potential of some funding coming from elsewhere.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open it up to members now. Could you put a hand up for anybody to ask questions? Councillor Binney.
Thank you, Provost. Dr. Comrie, I was reading the information regarding the breakdown of the project costs and the funding sought from this Common Good Fund. With regard the leaflets, the cost for the leaflets and 10 booklets, that's 1,700. Is that for printing only? And how do you intend to give that out to the community to make them aware of the project that you're undertaking?
That cost is all in for the design work, the research work required, and the printing. The actual distribution, we have a relationship with Falkirk Community Trust, and already they've offered to distribute leaflets, but obviously it hasn't happened so far throughout the library system. The current small leaflet we've made. For the booklets, the critical factor is the cost of the IBAN numbers and the barcodes. Once we have an IBAN number, the local library can then stock the item on the shelf. Without the IBAN number, we can distribute them for free or sell them, but they won't get into the libraries. So once they're in the libraries and in the school libraries, they will become available for people to use at no cost. The other way we would distribute the booklets would be to ask some local shops in the area of Iron, what's left of the Iron heritage of Falkirk, if they would be interested, on permission of selling for a nominal fee the booklet to local people who may have associations with the local like Carn Works, maybe some people in Bainsford, or Comley Blank Foundry in Denny, or Smith and Wellstead Foundry in Bonnybridge. That's kind of locating them there. But we're reaching out in many ways and also selling them on the internet through, which I hope we will set up a Falkirk Made Friends video channel if we get the chance to make the videos. So there's a whole range of ways.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Conley.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reid.
Good morning, Dr. Conley. You're applying to the borough of Falkirk Common Good Fund. Do you know the area that covers? This is not the Falkirk Common Good Fund, it's the borough of Falkirk Common Good Fund.
Yeah. I've got a rough idea of the boundaries of Falkirk.
Right. Yeah. It's just in your mention there, you mentioned Denny. I think you've, on your website, you referred to Bannatynes and Bowness and so on.
Yeah.
The Common Good Fund is really for the people who live in the borough.
Yeah, that's where most people live. Yeah. And hopefully they will be the people who will be the sort of main target for this information, yes. But I don't want to exclude anybody.
I know. Can I ask, are you registered as a charity?
No.
You realise that prevents you from attaining funding in many cases?
Yes. That has been discussed within the group, but I think that we'd have to see if that was worthwhile even for what we're interested in at the moment, which is really to stimulate interest in that Iron heritage and the hope that would attract. And see, if we attract enough people, yes, I'm sure that would happen. I'm very impressed by what's happened in Burnt Island. I've assisted them in adopting their phone box. And they have a heritage trust that is dedicated to the history of Burnt Island. And that'd be great if we could do that in Falkirk, but we've got to stimulate that interest.
We have a more recent example in the Larbert, Stennismuir area with the project that largely came from Councillor Bowes, and he had a lot of help from the council itself through Mandy Brown, who quite often gets involved in these projects. Have you thought of contacting her?
She came along, yeah. She's been to a meeting of Falkirk Made Friends. She knows what we're doing. Yeah. I think she's had preferences for nature, if I would say, rather than Iron heritage. I think she's concentrated on the natural of the Carn Dam. And it's a wonderful legacy again that Carn Company have left. Falkirk.
I'm trying to be helpful. I'm trying to be helpful in suggesting possible other areas for funding, as well as the Common Good Fund. Okay.
We have reached out. We're in discussion with Green Heritage Group, Historical Society, right? about some aspects of the history of Smith and Wellstead. Certainly, we reach out to them, and we hope that we'll be able to work with them to develop the interest and work through them and not separate from them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, any questions? You put your hand up, please. Councillor Patrick. Can you hear you? You're muted.
Thank you, Provost. Dr. Comrie, I certainly wish your project all success. I noticed, for example, you stressed the pillar boxes, which is very famous, of course, for Karen's involvement there. You didn't mention pillar boxes, but telephone boxes and pillar boxes, I think they're specialties. My grandfather and father before me were founder managers in Cairn and were involved in the projects. Indeed, my father went down through to the Lion Foundry in Kirkintilloch for a while to continue that work. So, but I'd just like to know how exactly do you, how do you in actual fact mean to use the information that's there? And perhaps I should also stress that ex-Provost Reid is indeed quite correct to question the area of involvement, because we've got to be very strict about the area of our fund. But I think you will find that within the area of the Bainsford alone, there'll be so many people still with very strong memories of Cairn and all the products that were produced there, and I can only wish you success.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Any other hands coming up for questions? No other hands, no other questions? Councillor Alexander. He's muted.
I'll take him off. Councillor Alexander.
Apologies for that. Thanks very much, sorry, Provost, for bringing this back to us. I'm really concerned by the fact that the Common Good Fund seems to be becoming the organisation that's contacted first for funding, whereas the practice has always been in the past that we perhaps did some top-up funding, and so the fund won't last much longer if we adopt that particular attitude for applications. And saying that, any organisation which looks to preserve heritage and then promote local heritage is worthy of support. So there's a dilemma there for myself and possibly for others as well. How to overcome that dilemma, I don't know, but open to suggestions.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions to Dr. Comrie before we go into debate? Any questions? No. Dr. Comrie, that's the questions finished. Before we put you out the meeting just now for the elected members to discuss, is there anything you would like to conclude with?
If I can, Councillor, one of the dilemmas that I struggled with was how to do something that responded to the pandemic. And I felt that, and it's not easy for other groups to do this perhaps, but it's something that I've got particular skills to do, is to encourage people to take a very positive response to the pandemic by saying to people, here's an opportunity to further explore your areas, because we're all walking the streets of our locality now much more in earnest, and perhaps we need to be reminded of some of the interest and features that are there, and stimulate some interest in engineering history so that people can take the example and be innovative themselves. So the pandemic is something that's really caused a lot of brain anxiety in myself, how to really overcome the problems of it. And I think booklets and videos are at least a way of getting into people's houses you can pick up a booklet from a shop, which they're allowed to go in, and they can connect with the internet to look at videos online, something that they can do. The pandemic has limited so much, and so much access to cultural institutions that I hope this will be a way of balancing the committee's other concerns. It is a kind of positive antidote or tonic to the pandemic. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. We're putting you out in the lobby, so members will have an opportunity to discuss your application. Okay, Mr. Perry, would you in the lobby?
Yeah, so just to maybe explain to Dr. Crumley, you plan to make deliberations and to call him back to give him the outcome of the deliberations. Is that how you want to do it, Provost?
I think that'd be the fairest way, yeah.
Okay.
Call me.
I'll move you to the lobby just now then.
Thank you.
That's him.
Is that him in the lobby? Okay then, members, you've heard Dr. Comrie. I think a copy of, well, I believe a copy of the leaflet that he's put out. So I'm opening up here for discussion. Thank you. Who would like to come in? Councillor Reid, you get your hand up.
Yes, it's just a preliminary question of Mr. Perry. So it sounds like Dr. Comrie has not got match funding. He's had a promise from a third party that they will find match funding. So the amount applied for is the 5,800.
I don't think so. His original email was that he was getting match funding and that they were looking for 4,250. I took from his answer that he was still looking for the 4,250.
I took from his answer that he had not received the match funding.
Yeah. Brian, I was going to ask the sort of same question. Could you maybe just bring Dr. Comrie back in just to clarify that, because it is a salient point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just let me do that now. That's him back. Dr. Comrie.
Hello.
Hi, we just had another question which maybe you can help clarify. Have you received the match funding that you talked about earlier?
The match funding was an offer made from Great Place, but we won't actually, well, it was only a couple of weeks ago. She's not actually had a chance to read what the application is yet, but she said she would support her application. I hope she would support it through Great Place, but if they may not want to support it because they have many other organisations that they fund, she would certainly try and help us find a way of gaining the match funding. And I thought that was good. It was very positive to work with Great Place rather than just to ignore them, because they're again trying to improve the area. I'd rather work through bodies and with them rather than just ignore them.
So just to clarify then, the sum of money that you're looking for from the Common Good Fund, is it still the reduced figure of 4,250, or is it the original 5,000?
We had match funding, yes. No.
Sorry, I missed that.
If we had match funding, that would be the amount, 4,250. Yeah.
That might generate a follow-up question or two, so maybe I'll leave it to the committee.
Yeah, anybody else like to come in? Councillor Reid, just to clarify, because the figure of 5,800, you haven't got a definitive answer, Dr. Comrie, that you're going to get the match funding. So what we are saying in essence, are you still applying today for the 5,800, or are you sticking to the 4,250?
Well, obviously I'll take the higher figure, but I have to tell you that the match funding advice came into play, but it was only 3 weeks ago, and I've not really had a chance to firm it out with Helen Rashad. I certainly wouldn't like to think I'm ignoring her offer. You know, I really would really like to work with her to achieve this. Yes.
Okay then.
I'm in a dilemma. I'm like you. I'm in a dilemma.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, you want to put them out again?
Oh,
Choose
You're in
the
a
fund.
dilemma in a lobby. Okay.
Okay, back to you, Councillor Reid. I think it's clarified the position somewhat.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So how do other members feel? Anybody like to go in? Councillor Meikle John?
I think I'm still a wee bit anxious that we're being asked to fund something from the Falkirk Common Good that actually extends beyond the Falkirk Common Good area. And I don't think we are clear around the situation with Great Places. I think there's an opportunity there, yes, but there's no guarantees of getting the funding. So while it been made aware of that, I think we have to take it that what they're looking for the common good is the 5,875. But I'm just a wee bit anxious that there's not been other areas out with the Falkirk Common Good explored for funding, and therefore because it extends beyond Falkirk, then I would have liked to have seen a bit more of a balance.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else like to come in? Anybody? Councillor Patrick?
Yes, I tend to agree with Councillor Meikle John, and feel that we're being asked, first of all, to put the boundaries of our fund at some risk in view of so many other demands that could be raised. And I'm also, I feel somehow or other that although this is a continuation, I still think that the application is at premature stage, and that at this particular stage we should get a lot more information and more certainty before we continue.
Okay then, thank you. Anybody else like Councillor Alexander?
Yeah, Chair, I agree with John on that one. There doesn't seem to be much focus in terms of the accuracy and the various progress points you're looking for from the Dr. Comrie. Again, repeat the concern that I have that this is an application that's come here first when it should come here last. The Common Good Fund is for topping up projects, not for fully financing them. So we were concerned about that aspect of the report, or that aspect of the proposals. I saw the telephone box leaflet and just wondered what was the connection when I saw it. I wondered what the purpose was when I saw it as well. Which is unfortunate, because I'm sure the good doctor is very keen to promote Falkirk and very keen to promote heritage. So he has that in his favour. I certainly wouldn't be in favour of funding the full 4,200. I may be persuaded to support a lesser figure if providing that lesser figure comes in at the end of his fundraising efforts, not at the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to come in at this stage? Councillor Reid?
I don't want to be dismissive of the application. It's obviously with serious intent. I just feel that the common good should not be regarded as a soft touch and the first place of resort. I mean, the organisation itself has not raised very much money, if anything at all. I think almost everybody around the table at the moment has been involved in fundraising, and 5,000 is a pretty easy target to hit, provided you're registered as a charity and provided you know where to go. So I think if we were minded not to give anything at this stage, we could maybe offer him help in fundraising from the many officers that do that within the council very successfully.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Reid. Anybody else like to come in at this stage? Well, I'll come in. Obviously, I can really appreciate what everybody said, especially the sort of situation in relation to the funding and whether it was going to get match funding or not. But I said at the first meeting that I read the application form. There's an awful lot of substance in there, and I was saying to myself at the very beginning that for what they're proposing, that type of money isn't really that significant. Then when I got the leaflet, Falkirk First, again, I was really impressed with this. I think in terms of the issue about going outside the Falkirk district, I can appreciate that if you're just putting a knife through that. But the fact of the matter is that where he's talking about is the fact is that there are many issues that are connected with Falkirk that maybe spread itself out. And to be honest with you, I'm really very supportive of anybody in terms of local history. But once again, I appreciate what members are saying in relation to the Falkirk Common Good Fund. It's a difficult one, but I don't think, to be honest with you, we've got what 649,000 in the Common Good Fund, a figure something like that. And the fact is that I think given £4,250 to what I would say is, and I think it would be really beneficial, to the council area, not just Falkirk, and maybe that's the problem there. And I would just say that I would support the application for the 4,250, and then hopefully that it'll get matched, and then the project will grow, because I know that he already mentioned the fact that he's been in touch with the Greenhill Historical Society in relation to the wonderful work that they do, talking about the issues about Smith and Wellstridge, etc. And maybe that area and other areas like Denny and Bowness and so forth, then it'll grow. But I'm quite happy in myself, and that's my opinion, as I'm supportive of this. So anyway, that's my position. So if anybody, I'll formally move. If I don't get a seconder, well, the fact of the matter is that it's just unfortunate. So is there anybody else who'd like to come in then? You've heard my views. Mr. Perry?
I just wondered, before we do any sort of formal motions and amendments, whether there's a sort of halfway house that would satisfy everything, like perhaps agreeing to give a certain amount of money and then tell them to go away and fundraise, but the option to come back at the end, which would kind of satisfy Councillor Alexander's point that they really should be at the end of the process. So if you were to give an amount less than 4,000, I think Councillor Alexander said, that puts an onus back on them to go and fundraise for the rest. It's up to committee just after that.
Anybody get any comment on that? Councillor Alexander?
Yes, Convener, that seems to me to be a reasonable compromise. As I say, the percentage of what's applied for against the total expenditure to be incurred, I don't think is proportional. So I would certainly be quite happy to do a payment of £1,000, providing the organisation submit that last, and they can demonstrate that the balance has been obtained from other sources.
Okay, thanks for that. We've got Councillor Alexander moving £1,000. Is there anybody else like to come in at this stage? It's open and free, and we've all got an opinion on it. Anybody like to come back? Councillor Reid, want to come back in on that one?
Yes, well, if I think the population of the borough of Falkirk is roughly 40,000 out of 160,000 population, 1,000 doesn't seem unreasonable. But to be paid after he gets the rest of the money.
Okay, the well, yep. Councillor Miko, John, thank you.
I'd be happy to support that because I also think it reflects the need to source funds from out with the Falkirk Common Good, and it gives them something that they can benchmark any matched funding on as well. Because I'm supportive of what they're trying to do. 100%. I'm just feel that we could be accused of misusing the common good if it's something that's going to benefit the whole of the Falkirk area. And I think that's a reasonable compromise. That way they get something. And if at some point they find themselves slightly short, then we could perhaps look to amend. If it's a few hundred or something in order to meet the final part, then we could maybe look at it then. But I think, yeah, I would much rather we give them something and allow them to go and look at what else they can bring in.
Okay, thank you. We'll just clarify where we are. I have moved the motion. It's not been seconded. Councillor Alexander's moved that we give them £1,000. Was it stated that they would get the £1,000 after they got initial funding? Is that what was stated? I know Councillor Reid came in with that.
Essentially, yes. The application to this particular committee must come at the end of the process. We were talking about the top up to the final figure. I don't think it's credible to come here first.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Just to clarify. Okay, then we've had a good debate. Councillor Gold, do you have anything to say on the matter?
No, well, only Provost to say that there's been much talk about the Common Good Fund being only for the borough of Falkirk, which of course it was designed to be. And during my spells as a Provost, that was what it always was. But there have been occasions, there was an occasion when money was sent down to Grangemouth for the Spitfire, for instance. So maybe in the future we should bear in mind that it is the Common Good Fund for the whole of Falkirk, because Falkirk Borough, because there are other common good funds in the area as well. The Common Good Fund in Denny.
Okay, then. So we've heard what Councillor Alexander said. Is that you formally moved, Councillor Alexander, seconded by, was it yourself, Councillor Reid? So just to get this right, so we're agreeing to £1,000, but it's not going to be forthcoming until they've got the rest of the money. Is that what's been said? Is that right, Councillor Reid? Sorry,
if you want me to be brutally honest, it was a very, very poor presentation, and he didn't seem to know where he was going for the money. You'll have to register as a charity. It's simple. And we've already offered them aid through our officers. 5,000 is not a huge amount.
No. No, okay, thank you. Okay, then. Councillor Ritchie, our Deputy Provost, sorry.
It's fine, don't worry, Bella. It's just to clarify what's actually getting said today. So what we're saying is the gentleman's not going to get anything just now. He's to go away, try and get funding and blah, 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 then come back and then we'll give them £1,000 when they've asked for, well, either 4,250 or if they don't get funding elsewhere, it was going to be 5,000 and whatever. Is that what we're saying today? Whatever happens, £1,000 when they've asked for 4,250.
I think that's right.
Right. So I don't know if I agree with that when what they've come in with. Yes, I agree with it. Maybe we should be going back to them and saying, look into other funding, though I will say as well, due to the predicament we're in at present, it's going to be hard to go out and do a normal fundraising instead of going and getting grants and whatever. Even in grants, I think it's taking longer, isn't it? I know
Yeah.
a couple of the groups that I've been involved with, they have put in for grants and they're just not forthcoming due to what's going on. Committees are no sitting and that sort of thing. So this could hold up. I'm not saying I'm in favour of the man getting everything the now or whatever, but to turn around and say, if you come back in 6 months' time when you've looked for funding and we'll maybe give you £1,000 when they've asked for more, I don't think we should be putting a limit on it until they've been out and seen what they can get. But that's just my views.
Well, thank you. You're entitled to them, indeed. Okay, you've heard what Deputy Provost Ritchie said in relation to it. I'm in your hands here. Whatever happens, right, Brian?
I'm just thinking that you either have to have a, if that's been moved, have a counter proposal or just discuss it until you can come to some sort of conclusion that satisfies everybody. You could just say you're going to continue it and they're welcome to come back at the end of their application process and see what they come back with. And it might be they ask for 3, you still don't need to give them 3. Or you might be of a different mind when they come back. They might come back and just ask for 1. You don't maybe need to commit to saying 1,000. You know in your mind it's 1,000, and to be honest, it's on this video and it's a public record anyway. But just say, go away, fundraise and come back. We're happy to look at another application when they've finished that process. It's entirely up to things.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Patrick.
Provost, I think the mistake here is in actually nailing our figures to £1,000 at this stage. And I think it would be perfectly reasonable to go back and say that at this particular stage, although we are supportive, enthusiastic almost of the idea behind the project, at this particular stage we can't actually agree to do anything, but we would hope that they would manage, especially by getting charitable status, to achieve the funding themselves. But that if the project was to continue, we'd encourage them to make their own efforts, and that without giving any guarantee as to a sum, that our support, we hope, would be in a more active source only. But at this stage, I don't think we should be actually agreeing to do more than give them support.
So what you're saying in reality, Councillor Patrick, is we feel at this stage that there's not enough information, and at the end of it, we feel that they've got a bit of work to do in relation to funding in other areas, and we would be supportive once they come back and everything seems to be a bit more firmer for their proposal. Is that what you're saying, really?
Yes, I think that would be my idea.
So what do we think about that, Councillor Meikle-John? What I'll do is I'll go round everybody one more time and then we'll see how. Councillor Meikle-John, what do you think then?
I'm happy if we don't put a figure on it, but obviously council officers can help support them and encourage them to go down the route of charitable status. And as has been said by other speakers, that they could look to come back to the common good as a top-up once they've carried out some of their own fundraising activities, and that may well be a mixture of what they do themselves and the applications for grants, because I think that there probably is enough out there that they would be able to get that relatively small amount of funding, but that they can come back to the common good once they've done that. Happy that we don't put a figure on it.
Thank you. Councillor Gombe, come to you now.
Yeah, I'm happy to go what I take to be the kind of common consensus in the committee. Quite happy with that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Alexander.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a common consensus around about the direction it would go. the only difference seems to be, do we tell them what we're thinking in relation to a figure to allow them to then calculate how much they need to raise as the balance. I would have thought that it wouldn't have done a great deal of damage to the common good or to running the common good if we gave a figure to the organisation. But the consensus is that we ask them to come back with a record of fundraising, and we'll look at it again in the future, and fair enough.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ritchie, Deputy Provost.
I'm happy what everyone's saying. I just didn't want to put a figure on it.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Prepared for you, John. Councillor Binney.
I just want to say, agree with Pat, Councillor Reid, that I feel it was a poor presentation, and there wasn't enough content in it, and there wasn't enough assurance about monies either. And our common good fund, I mean, that these monies should be protected. So I would be quite happy if Falkirk Mid Friends went away and got better information coming to us. And obviously in the light of the pandemic as well, I mean, I'm talking about handing leaflets out and that. I'm not quite sure if they got funding, how that would actually work at the moment. But I would be quite happy if they went away and firmed everything up about funding, and then came back to us and asked us again if they could apply for some money.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reid.
Yes, more than happy to accept John's compromise, Provost.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Brian, it's the position usually is that they're no letter, they're emailed, they're that after it.
Yeah.
So you've taken cognizance of what everybody said then, and you just do a report and it's sent out to them. Is that what happens then?
I'll just contact if when we're finished, because Dr. Comby's still in the lobby. When we're finished, if everybody logs out, I'll be left with him. I can explain to him, and then I'll send an email out to them as well. And bear in mind, we're not setting a limit, but he'll be able to see this recording online, so he's going to see what the kind of thinking is. So he's going to get a pretty good steer.
Right.
That if they come back asking for 3,000, it might be the onus is on them to get as much money raised themselves as possible.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Is everybody happy with the outcome then? Can we agree that?
Yes, agreed.
Okay. Thanks everybody then. Thank you very much.
Yep.